and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, my name is David Popovich, aka the Bookworm, and welcome to Bookworm Reviews. Sit back and relax as we dive into Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Tarzan! Edgar Rice Burroughs' tale of a wild man raised by apes splashed onto the scene in 1912 in the pulp magazine All Story. It's the story that put Edgar Rice on the map. It was so well received that he would write over 24 sequels about Tarzan alone, along with becoming a pulp culture icon with adaptations to other mediums like comics and film. First through the silent era, till he was immortalized by the actor Johnny Weissmuller, who gave Tarzan his iconic call. Yeah, that one. In fact, if you look at the list of films, there has been a constant stream of Tarzan films from 1918 till 1970, and even then there were others retelling this iconic story. Whether you were like me and discovered Tarzan through the Disney adaptation, or are about to witness the character reintroduced in The Legend of Tarzan, while not as popular as he was, Tarzan remains a major pulp icon of the 20th century, and it all started with this little book. So what was it about this story that captured the imagination for over a century? Well, we are introduced to Tarzan's parents, John Clayton, aka Lord Greystoke, and his wife, Lady Alice. The two are on a ship heading to Africa for a mission, but they never get there. See, the captain on the ship is a real ass to his crew, and his crew are mostly criminals and yada yada yada. The crew mutinies and kills the captain, but not the Claytons. The new head of the crew forbids any harm to come to them because they showed kindness to him. However, he decides to leave them on an isolated shore in Africa's west coast. The reason? It would be a hard matter to land you in civilization without a lot of questions being asked, and none of us here have any very convincing answers up our sleeves. Surprisingly, he makes sure they are given all their possessions, food, and promises that once things clear up, he'll come back to find them. But the Claytons know that most likely isn't going to happen. They are doomed to survive in the dark jungles of the savage continent known as Africa. "Oh, John," she cried at last, "the horror of it! What are we to do? What are we to do?" "There is but one thing to do, Alice." And he spoke as quietly as though they were sitting in their snug living room at home. "And that is work." Even though life just gave them a bad hand, John believes that in their enlightened age, they can survive better than their ancestors had once before. "For are we not armed with ages of superior knowledge, and have we not the means of protection, defense, and subsistence which science has given us, but of which they were totally ignorant? What they accomplish, Alice, with instruments and weapons of stone and bone, surely that may we accomplish also." And that's what they do. They build a shelter in the trees and make a living on the continent. They even give birth to a child, but after a year in the jungle, Lady Alice dies. She was slowly going mad surviving in the jungle, and her body finally gave in. John is distraught losing his wife with a babe to care for, but he will never know what his son would be like. When they first arrived, they knew the jungle held many dangers, and one was the ape tribe led by Kerchak. Before, John was able to keep these savage beasts away, but in the morning for his wife, Kerchak discovers the man unarmed and finally kills him. Yeah, for those of you who grew up on the Disney version, this book is dark and savage. A lot of that is to showcase the theme of civilized life versus savage life, showing both the pros and cons of each. And the way Burroughs shows that is with what the she-ape Kala discovers in the cabin. She just lost her baby during one of Kerchak's rage fits, and when she discovers this mysterious white ape baby, she takes it as her own, giving it the name for his white skin, Tarzan. That's really all you need to know about the book, because after this, it's all about how Tarzan became the man he is. From how he notices his differences between him and the apes, to how over the years he basically becomes a superhero. Though but 10 years old, he was fully as strong as the average man of 30, and far more agile than the most practiced athlete ever becomes, and day by day, his strength was increasing. But Tarzan also shows an interest in the cabin he was born in, but of course he doesn't know why. Yet he keeps finding himself coming back and starting to take a look at the books and starts to read. Tarzan of the Apes, little primitive man, presented a picture filled, at once, with pathos and with promise, an allegorical figure of the primordial groping through the black night of ignorance towards the light of learning. God, was there ever a time writers didn't talk about how awesome reading is, bro? But this brings to light the theme Burroughs wants to showcase, the battle between the wild and civilization. Tarzan in many ways can be viewed as the perfect man. When he's fully grown, he has the muscular body that would put most people to shame, with a skin baked till golden brown. Able to battle the savage beasts of the jungle, from gorillas to snakes to lions. Oh my. Yet he also reads and writes and over time learns about his own roots, using his logic and reason as much as his muscles. He's basically the best of both worlds. And what we read are his different trials and tribulations as he learns to balance those worlds, as he faces more dangers to finally becoming the man we all know. I am Tarzan, he cries. I am a great killer. Let all respect Tarzan of the Apes, and Kala his mother. There be none among you as mighty as Tarzan. Let his enemies beware. And the book itself is this strange hybrid of episodic stories that in some ways are connected to each other in a tangled web, yet it's executed so well you never feel lost. And it makes the book a good read, along with some great detail to action scenes. Quickly, he unslung his bow and fitted a well-dabbed arrow, and as Sabor sprang, the tiny missile leapt to meet her in midair. At the same instant, Tarzan of the Apes jumped to one side, and as the great cat struck the ground beyond him, another deft-tipped arrow sunk deep into Sabor's loin. And yes, this is a Tarzan book, and what is Tarzan without Jane? She actually comes around the second half of the book, and it's where we see Tarzan and her start to form feelings for each other, while providing Tarzan a more in-depth look into human life. This is a strange book, and I love it. Everything about this story feels both familiar and unique. People have pointed out how it echoes the myths of Romulus and Remus, yet with its spin of man and beast, nature versus nurture, leads to a tale that is just compelling from beginning to end. Now, this is an old book, and it does have a few era issues. Mainly its portrayal of blacks. There's an African tribe who are a bunch of cannibals. Jane has a black servant who is nothing more than used to faint when things get rough. You could have a drinking game every time she faints. And some of the language of the book just makes one's skin crawl. To be fair, the tribe was kicked out by white settlers. The black servant is just a bad damsel in distress trope, and the language could be more in tune with man overall, but just from this book, it's a little hard to tell. But thankfully, those issues are few and far in between. If you're looking for some old school pulp adventure, you couldn't do any better than this. Even by the end, which is honestly a depressing ending. Like, damn, that's how you're ending the story? After all that, this is what you do. Respect. Needless to say, but I want to read the next book just to see what happens next, cause damn. So yeah, it's worth the read. What about you, Internet? What's your opinion about Tarzan of the Apes? If you have a book you would like me to review, let me know in the comments below. But next week, we will review a book you all chose to celebrate 1,000 subscribers, and the winner is So Much 80s Cheese. Till next time, have a nice day.